Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to Mingles with Jingles, once again sponsored by NordPass. This time you can get 50% off a 2-year NordPass premium plan, and as always they throw in a month for free, and if you're not happy with the product, there's a 30-day no questions asked money back guarantee. Just go to nordpass.com/jingles and use code JINGLES. Now, of course, you don't need a password manager to come up with a strong password. All you have to do is follow a few basic rules. Try to use at least 12 characters, the more the better. Try to use a mixture of letters and numbers, a mixture of uppercase and lowercase letters, and always try to include at least one special character, like exclamation mark, for example. Just follow those 4 basic rules and you will come up with a virtually uncrackable password. And then you do what everybody else does, and you use that one same password for every single username and login that you have online, which is just as bad as using a dozen different weak passwords. And that, of course, is where having a password manager like NordPass comes in. So if one website that you use gets breached, as Twitch did not that long ago, and as Google does like all the time, it doesn't matter, because NordPass has given you a different secure login on every single site where you have an online presence. So you don't end up like, for example, the world's leading Rise of Kingdoms player, a Turkish player called Babatisi Ataturk, who accidentally left his personal email address exposed on a YouTube video that he uploaded, which compromised his Rise of Kingdoms account worth $1.5 million because his password was the name of his son and the year he was born. So don't be a noob. Start taking your password security seriously. Or don't, and just let NordPass do it for you by heading to nordpass.com/jingles and using code JINGLES to get 50% off a 2-year premium plan plus 1 month for free. All covered by NordPass's 30-day no questions asked money back guarantee. So, as I'm sure most of you who watch Mingles with Jingles are probably aware, I'm moving house this week, with all of the associated, oh my god, that goes with it. Now, this isn't the first time I've moved house. I was in the military for 22 years, so moving around is, it's part of the job. But when you're moving from ship to ship, all you're really taking with you is your uniform and your kit. So that's, it's a pain in the arse, but it's not bad. Moving house, of course, is a little bit more complicated. And this isn't the first time I've had to move house either. I mean, after my first 10 to 12 years in the Navy, I'd had enough of living in barracks and on board ships, and I ended up renting places, usually renting a room from a friend that I was serving on board the same ship with, for example. And when you've only got one room full of stuff, it's a bigger pain in the arse than just moving your uniform and kit around, but it's still not that bad. You can get everything into a minivan. This is different. I've been staying at this address for the last 16 years, and I basically rent the entire first floor, with the exception of one room. So I've got a lot of stuff. It still could be a lot worse. It's not like I'm moving an entire house, but it's still far from pleasant. And in order to prepare for it, there were obviously a number of things that I had to do. So just to get you up to date with the timeline, I move on Tuesday, the 29th. On Monday, the 28th, this is tomorrow from my perspective because I'm sitting here recording this on Sunday, but today, from your perspective, the day that most people are going to be watching this episode of Mingles with Jingles, what's happening today is the removals firm are coming around with all of the packing materials, and they're going to help me pack and dismantle everything. And then the next day, Tuesday, tomorrow, from your perspective, they come around again, and that's when we do the move. And the move itself should be relatively simple. It's all the packing that's going to be a massive pain in the arse. But probably the worst thing for me is what happened as I'm sitting down on the day recording this episode of Mingles with Jingles on the Sunday, because I don't want my 2 cats to be underfoot, potentially causing problems and being scared of all the removals people. So Rita volunteered to take care of them for a couple of nights. So today it was really hard because I had to put the cats into their carry cases and take them around to Rita's. And with Juicy, it wasn't an issue because she stayed with Rita before. She never likes being put into the cat box, but once we got to Rita's and she realised where she was like, oh yeah, it's okay, I've been here before, I know this. Not so much with Akazuki, who cried and cried and cried And because she's never been to Rita's before, in fact she's never left this house, with the exceptions of trips to the vet and the 2 or possibly 3 unsuccessful attempts that we made to take her out, which she didn't like. Aside from that, she's never left this house in her life. So we put her in the cat carrier, she didn't like that. We put her in the car, she started crying. She probably thought, we were taking her to the vet. We got her to Rita's place, and she didn't even want to leave the cat box, she was so scared. And then when we finally coaxed her out, the first thing she did was look for somewhere to hide, which I suppose is natural, but it was heartbreaking. Because I'm not going to get her back until Tuesday. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And I've been to war. Yeah, I know. She'll be fine. Rita's been sending me updates over Facebook Messenger. And it took a couple of hours, but eventually she's sitting on Rita's windowsill and just watching the world. But it's been heartbreaking. But anyway, tomorrow for me, today for you, I'm going to be packing everything. So it's extremely unlikely that I'll be able to do a video. And then on Tuesday, or tomorrow for you, I'll actually be moving. And the move itself should be relatively simple because everything will have been packed and ready to go. But then when I get to the other end, I have to unpack everything, and obviously getting the computer set up is going to be a priority. Fortunately, I do have internet at the new address. 500 megabits up and down. I could have gone for 1 gigabit, but overkill. I don't need that much. But it's up and down, so upload should be way faster at the new address. I've got to get Wi-Fi sorted. I mean, there's all kinds of things I need to get sorted, but what I need is a bed, something to sleep on. I've got that. A working kitchen so I can cook. I've got that. And internet. And I've got that. Anything else will happen when it happens. None of my furniture's ready, so literally the only actual furniture I have is my bed. So I'm going to be sitting on boxes. I might have to buy a beanbag or something. Yeah, this is the scariest thing I've done in my life, easily. And I've been to war, actually twice. Yeah, whoa, I'm definitely not going to be making a habit of doing this sort of thing. Hopefully this will be the last time I ever have to move anywhere, because the next time, if I do have to move again in the future, it's going to be even worse, because I'll have a whole house full of furniture to move as well. Oh my God. There's all kinds of other things that crop up when you're moving into your own property that don't crop up when you move into Navy accommodation or you're renting a room from somebody. Like, for example, it occurred to me in the middle of last week, I should probably make sure that I have gas and electricity, which is going to be fairly important. And you would not believe how difficult it is in this country to find out who your energy supplier is. But I did get all of that sorted. Thankfully, the same company for both gas and electricity, so that's all taken care of. Let's see, what else is there? Oh yeah, the place that I'm moving into is maintained and managed by a management company. And waiting inside one of the kitchen drawers was a welcome pack from the management company with all kinds of useful information, none of which was accurate. And what I mean by that is, for example, outside in the street, it's even a private street, they have locked areas for general household waste and recycle waste. And as you can imagine, the day after I move in, I'm probably going to have an awful lot of cardboard boxes and packing material to get rid of, so knowing the passcode for the recycle waste bins is probably going to be a really good idea. Except the passcodes in this management welcome pack didn't work. Fortunately, I was able to find a neighbour, and they said, oh yeah, no, this is the right code. And it's the same code for both the general waste and the recycle waste. It's not two separate codes, which were written down in the management welcome pack, both of which were wrong. So I thought, okay, well, that's fine. At least I've got my waste disposal sorted. But if that's wrong, what else is wrong in this welcome pack? So I did a bit more digging. I tried to get in touch with the managing agent. The information was all there in the welcome pack. It will probably come as no great surprise to know that the managing agent could not be contacted. The phone number had been discontinued. And it turned out that the phone number had been discontinued because the managing company that provided this welcome pack has been out of business for at least 5 years and is no longer the managing agent. So who is the managing agent? Don't know. And it's the sort of thing that's going to be useful to know because there's an annual management charge for this property, which fortunately I don't have to pay until September. But I'm sure you'll agree, knowing who I have to pay this charge to and how I can pay it is probably going to be very useful. I do have until September to figure that out, though. And it's probably in the pile of documentation that my conveyancing lawyer supplied. So that's probably not going to be a problem. But it is a problem. And problems are the kind of things that you can do without when you're moving house. So what else was there? Let's think. Oh yeah, the internet connection went without a hitch. Well, it almost went without a hitch. So I can't remember when it happened. Sometime last week, I had an appointment with Hyperoptic to come around and basically connect me up to the internet. Now, as is usually the case where these sort of things are concerned, they said that the engineers would be around any time between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. So naturally, they didn't turn up until 2:55 p.m. But that's okay. That's not a problem. What was a problem was basically this is a very, very old building. It was built in 1865. And it has an extremely tall ceiling. I mean, it must be 3.5 meters. And that was an issue because when the building was converted to residential, they put all of the wiring in the crawl space in the ceiling. So for the internet engineer to actually connect me, they had to get up into the ceiling through a hatch where all the cables were. And his ladder wasn't high enough. So he had to call a colleague who had a different ladder. Let's just say it took 2 hours for them to run the cable from the ceiling, which was 3.5 meters up, drilling holes through various different walls, through my front door, because the way this property is arrayed, it's kind of strange, really. You go up a short flight of steps to a veranda where the front door is. And then in through the front door, the hallway, you've got the one big room upstairs, which is the combination lounge and kitchen. And then there's stairs going downstairs to slightly below ground level where the 3 bedrooms and the bathroom are. And I needed the internet connection to be serving one of the bedrooms, which is going to be my study. They had to run 103 meters of cable in order to get the internet access point to the place where I needed it. And it took 2 hours. I mean, they really did a fantastic job. I can't praise them enough. But I had all kinds of visions of that going horribly wrong as well when he came in and looked up at the access point on the ceiling and he just said, uh-oh. So I was like, no, I don't want to hear uh-oh. I want to hear this will not be a problem. It ended up not being a problem. But for a couple of minutes there, everything was potentially going to go horribly, horribly wrong. But that basically sums up this entire process so far. It's just been one long chain of, shit. Oh, actually, no, wait, it's okay. It's not going to be a problem. Followed by another, oh, shit. And thankfully, I mean, it's been doing nothing good for my blood pressure. But thankfully, so far, everything has more or less been proceeding according to plan. Right now, as I'm sitting recording this on Sunday, the day before the removals firm comes around to help me pack everything, the only thing that could possibly go wrong is if the removals firm doesn't come around on Monday to help me pack everything because of whatever reason, a double booking or a flat tire on their van or what, I don't know. But that's the only other thing that could go wrong that would halt everything in its tracks. So, fingers crossed. Because I really, really need this to go smoothly. I'm sure it'll all be fine. It had better, because I need my cats back. I miss my girls. It's only been a couple of hours and I'm missing them already. It's far too quiet around here without them. I mean, Akazuki can be a real pain in the arse because she is extremely vocal and she knows what she wants and she wants it right now, damn it. Doesn't care what you're doing. And she can be a pain in the arse with her meowing. when I'm trying to get videos done. Although I've managed to incorporate that into some of my videos, but I'd give anything to hear her complaining about something right now. Oh, it's only going to be 2 days, Jingles. Get over yourself. Yeah, I know, you're right. But, well, pet owners will understand. Oh, I'll tell you what else was fun. Because my internet service provider, with whom I have had an email address for the last 22 years, doesn't serve my new address, I've had to get a new email address. I mentioned this in last week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. One thing that you must do under those circumstances, before you move and lose the old email address, is make sure that you change your email address to whatever the new one is going to be before you do the move. Because in order to change the email address, it's usually a fairly simple process. You log into whichever website you have an account with. Let's say, for example, wargaming.net for your World of Tanks and World of Warships accounts, which, ironically enough, was the last place I remembered to do. Because, as we all know, I am crap. But the process usually takes 3 or 4 minutes. It's not difficult. It's just, well, you log in using your current email address and password. You tell them you want to change your email address. They send a verification email to your current address to prove that it's you doing this. You then reply to the verification email, back to the website. You input the new email address that you're changing to. They repeat the process and send a verification email to that email address, which you verify, and then you're done. Whole process takes 3, 4, 5 minutes. Now do that 100 times or more for every website where you have an online presence and a password that requires your email address. It is not nearly as much fun as it sounds. So that's pretty much what I did all day on Saturday. Just sat at my computer changing my email address with the entire world. Like I said, not nearly as much fun as it sounds. And it could have been way worse, because on Friday night I thought I had changed my email address with everybody that I needed to. You know, the big ones like Google, PayPal, my bank, you know, the big ones. And I thought I'd gotten everything covered, but I wasn't even close. I think I might have remembered, I don't know, 15 to 20 places that I needed to register a change of email address. Yeah, not even close. And the only reason I knew it wasn't even close was because I also had to change my email address and therefore access to NordPass, my password manager. Now, this part isn't a plug, by the way. They can have this one for free because they saved my ass. Because while I was changing my email address with NordPass, and it wasn't a simple case of just log into one place and exchange a couple of verification emails, which is fine for most places, but, you know, they take it a bit more seriously than that. So all kinds of questions were asked that I had to prove my identity with, and that was fine. That wasn't a problem. But while I was in NordPass, I took a quick look at the password list. There wasn't no 15 to 20 places online that I had a login with. It was more like 120, which I wouldn't have realised, and I would have missed all of them if I hadn't had NordPass installed. So NordPass gets this one for free because they absolutely saved my arse here, which is why I spent 6 hours on Saturday doing nothing but going through the list of saved passwords in NordPass, and then from within NordPass's password list, clicking the link that took me to the website that password and login were associated with, and changing the email address on each and every one of those websites and logins. Well, not all of them, most of them. Some of them were logins that I hadn't used in years, so they clearly weren't important. But some of them were quite important. Like, for example, when I got right down to the bottom of the list and realised that I hadn't yet updated my email address with Wargaming. And could have ended up being locked out of my World of Tanks and World of Warships accounts. And that would have been fun, wouldn't it? Oh, God. But, you know, would have, could have, should have, didn't. So, yeah, NordPass gets this plug for free because they absolutely saved my arse on Saturday, even if it did mean that I had to spend 6 hours changing email addresses online. Totally worth it. Well, by the time most of you see this video, the worst will be over. Everything will be packed, and then I just have to wait a day for the actual move. I do have only the one video pre-uploaded because there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to get any work done today because I'll be packing everything I own. The move itself shouldn't be too bad, and getting everything set up at the other end as far as the internet is concerned, and getting computers plugged in, shouldn't take too long. So in theory I could start getting back to work the second that's done. Realistically though, I'm probably not going to be in the right emotional frame of mind to get anything practical done on Tuesday evening or afternoon. So there probably isn't going to be a video on Wednesday. Although there might be, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Just be ready to deal with disappointment. You might have to miss out on a Far Cry 6 video this week. I know most of you ain't going to give a shit. So that's fine. Well, we're nearly done for the day. I have to really start prepping for packing, but there is one other thing that I did want to talk about before we put this episode to bed. World of Warships fans, I do want to apologise in advance for what you're about to hear, in case you haven't already heard about it, but you do need to hear about it. Because it turns out that Wargaming think that there aren't enough aircraft carriers in World of Warships, and the ones that we have aren't nearly annoying enough. Because they're introducing support carriers. What are support carriers? Well, do you know how everybody really hates artillery in World of Tanks? Although for different reasons today than why they hated artillery in World of Tanks a couple of years ago, because artillery's damage output has been seriously nerfed. But they've made up for the damage nerf that artillery has suffered by giving them an annoyance buff. I'm talking about the stun mechanic, where any time artillery hits or even splashes you in World of Tanks, aside from the damage that it does, it also basically makes your entire tank and its crew just a bit more shit for as long as the stun lasts. Well, brace yourselves, because they're giving support carriers stun bombs, which means the artillery stun is kind of coming to World of Warships, except it isn't. Not exactly. What we're getting in World of Warships is far, far worse. Because it turns out that the World of Warships game developers looked at the artillery stun mechanic in World of Tanks and said, yeah, that's pretty terrible. Hold my vodka. Because in World of Tanks, if your tank gets stunned, you can use your medkit to clear the stun. You have a counter to the stun. But there ain't no counter to the stun effect in World of Warships. Because what the stun effect in World of Warships does is it disables your counter. Yeah, it disables your consumables. So for example, if you get hit by stun bombs in World of Warships and you're a radar cruiser with your radar running, turns your radar off. Or, if you wanted to use your radar, you can't while the stun is active. But it gets better, because it also disables your damage control. Depending on the number of stun bombs that you get hit by, you could end up with your consumables being disabled for up to a minute. So just think about this for a second, and also remember submarines are back. So you're in a battleship, you found your man pants, you're pushing forward, and it's one of those rare occasions where your team are actually backing you up and supporting you. Come on boys, we've got this, except you haven't. Because the support carrier drops a stick of stun bombs on you and disables all your consumables for the next minute. Within the next 30 seconds, you're burning in 3 separate locations, and you can't do anything about that because your damage control's been disabled. You've also been double sonar lock pinged by a submarine, and you can't remove the ping because your damage control's been disabled, which means that when those torpedoes hit you, they're all going to do Citadel hits. And assuming you survive that, you can't clear the flood because your damage control's been disabled. So you battleship players, make sure you have fun with that, right? They're also given support carriers additional utility skills. For example, the ability to drop an aerial smoke screen to conceal their allies. Now, those of you with sufficiently long memories may recall that I thought this was a fantastic idea when they gave these kind of abilities to artillery in Armoured Warfare, those of you who can remember that far back. In fact, in Armoured Warfare they went one step further. Not only could friendly artillery fire smoke shells to conceal allies, they could also fire flares to reveal the location of enemies. So why was that a good thing in Armoured Warfare, but an utterly terrible thing in World of Warships with support carriers? Well, because there was a counter to it in Armoured Warfare. In Armoured Warfare, every time artillery fired, its location was revealed on the minimap to enemy artillery. So if you didn't relocate every time you fired, you are going to get nuked by counter-battery artillery fire. Now, hands up everybody who thinks they're going to do the same thing with support carriers every time they launch a strike in World of Warships. Or is it just going to be the same as regular carriers, except with even more annoying aircraft, where you just sit behind the nearest island and then roll your face all over your keyboard until the end of the battle, with absolutely no counterplay whatsoever? Yeah, I thought so too. And while for this next part I do have to admit I have zero actual evidence to back up the prediction I'm about to make, this is just my gut feeling, backed up by 6+ years of watching World of Warships get developed. These stun bombs dropped by support carriers, I'll bet you they're not going to work against aircraft carriers. Aircraft carriers with their minute-long automatic damage control? Not a chance. Forget it. So, World of Warships. Fun times ahead for everyone. And on that quite literal bombshell, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time, whenever that may be.